Today, I want to talk about content, specifically content that I'm seeing on YouTube and why, for lack of a better word, it's bothering me. Now, I know what you're going to say. Hey, JD, that's your own algorithm. Get your shit together, all right? Stop complaining. Yes, I don't want to make this a complaining video because that's actually what I'm talking about. Is I see so much content out there that is people complaining, whether that be complaining about some other content. So they put a video up and they're talking about that. They're complaining and arguing with each other. You see all these debates. You see people on newscasts complaining about the left, complaining about the right, complaining about Trump, complaining about that. And it's just constant bickering and arguments. And I'm going to sit here and complain about it. But no, I want to have a point to this and what I see. Hopefully I can get to a point to this. But number one, you're right. I do need to get my algorithm cleaned up. This is why I'm going back to the classics. I'm going back to Shakespeare. I was just listening to Julius Caesar, and I'm going to start Hamlet and Romeo and Juliet. I'm going back to the classics because with AI coming out, who knows what's going to be written by AI and what's not. I'll make another video on that later. But I do need to clean up my own algorithm and feed it with more positive things because I get down very easily. And when I see people, and the reason why this video is being made is because I was just watching two people who I think are very similar minded in regard to the way that they look at the world, and they're arguing with each other, and they're angry at each other. They're not even playing the game of talking and having a conversation or even a debate. They're not playing full out because they're angry at each other and they're like, well, this guy's an idiot and well, that guy's an idiot. And the comments are that guy's an idiot. It's like, that's all I see now on content. And I know that it's part of my fault. I have to not watch some of these things, but I really just, I watch podcasts and I watch, so like, I think some of it has to do with the algorithm is changing. And I think a lot of it has to do with what gets rewarded by the algorithm and what gets pushed out there. And this is why so much content is this type of complaining or dunking content, like making fun of someone or making them look bad, or, hey, I'm going to review and I'm going to watch this thing and I'm going to point out all the faults that are in that. And to me, it's just so exhausting. And I look at that as a sign, kind of like the Tower of Babel, that we're in that situation right now where we can't communicate with one another. Even if, like I said, I'm watching two people that should agree on a lot of things, but they're not even able to because of communication. And I'm sitting there going, I think it's getting worse. I think we're dividing ourselves and shooting ourselves in our own foot and missing opportunities to come together. And this is my big point is if that's the content that's being rewarded and that's the content that everyone wants to make because they're going, hey, Johnny and Susie and Timmy, they're all making that content. And so I need to make that content because they're getting lots of views and lots of things on that. So I'm going to change the way I do content to fit what people are clicking on. Now, maybe that's just what people are getting off on. Well, if that's the case, then again, we're in for trouble. Our communication skills don't match up with the level of communication that we have today. What do I mean by that? We don't have the capacity to communicate with one another that we need because we're so connected. Meaning, I can talk to, my 1,000 subscribers, all right? Probably maybe, 10 people are gonna watch this, but I can communicate with a lot more people than just me talking to these walls, because that's really all that would listen if I didn't have this camera. So I can expand my scope. Right? But then that scope can be taken and then someone can chop that up. I had that happen to me, right? My lowly channel, someone took my clips, all right? Clips from me, they cherry picked, but then they shit on what I was saying, all right? And then they made their own content because that's good content. Hey, dunking on someone and making them look stupid is great, even if you cherry pick their content or take them out of context completely because they didn't really get the understanding of what I was saying. So I've learned my lesson in regard to that. Don't make sensational content because somebody's going to catch it and somebody's going to be like, well, you needed to be put in your place. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. But what I'm trying to say is that's irrelevant in the conversation of the goal is to shit on people. The goal is to make someone look stupid. That's only going to divide us further. Like I said, two people that I believe have very similar values, very similar ways of looking at the world. One might be a lot further on in regard to certain, ways of thinking about things, but they're similar people. And instead of helping the other person along, they're shitting on each other, making each other angry, creating more division. Tower of Babel, we might agree on things, but we can't communicate and even share that, so we get nowhere with it. And I look at that as a sad, sad state of affairs. And then I look at AI, like I'm saying, and I go, well, I need to just get rid of it. I'm going way back to Shakespeare. I'm going back to the classics. I'm going to start, going into Socrates and the old school philosophers and old school religious texts and things like that, because I just want to get away from this new age content. And I go, AI, although it's going to be something that's going to change the way that I consume content, right? Because who knows what's going to be real or not. Like I said, I don't know if this book or this podcast is done by some real person, right? I made a mistake of listening to some Miles Monroe, and I was like, he's talking way too fast for this to be the real Miles Monroe. And it turns out it was just AI. And so the blinds are getting really blurry today. Imagine what it's going to be like tomorrow. Well, because of that, I want to get into content that is real. So I know Shakespeare wrote these things way back when because they didn't have the technology. So I'm going back to that. I like real people. I like flaws as much as this. I want some flaws. I want some raw human energy behind it. Love, for lack of a better word. That's really what I'm looking for. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you have to put your love into it. You have to put your passion into it. AI will never have love. AI will never have passion, no matter what you do. It's just not a trait that you can give. Well, at the same time, I'm thinking AI is going to change the way I consume content. It can't get here fast enough, because we're going to need that as a way to figure out a way to communicate with one another. Because right now, we can't do it. We can't do it. Now, if we get better and better with AI, are we going to use it for those purposes, or are we going to use it just to sell each other something? Well, right now, that's what's going on. It's just to maneuver information around to sell each other BS. But if you say, hey, if I can sell ideas, if I can sell products, or if I can sell products, I can sell ideas, and we can then work on communicating with one another. Is that just going to be used for propaganda, or are we going to use that to come together? I think if we programmed it and we said, hey, AI, we asked it, hey, how can we learn to better communicate with one another? What are the possibilities? I can't wait for that side of things, because right now I look around and I go, this is not a good situation. We have so much access to communicate, but we can't talk to one another. We already know that with like the left and the right, the Democrats and the Republicans. It's like they're talking about two different universes. They can't communicate at all. But now it's getting into, even in spaces where the people are very similar, they're arguing, they're dunking on each other. Again, if the algorithms and things are geared towards that type of content, we're going to get pushed away further and further. And I think that is not a good situation. We should be trying to come together, but I don't know necessarily how to do that. Like I said, I have made videos in the past trying to communicate certain ideas that aren't my opinion. The video that I was talking about where someone took it and dunked on it, and then I made not even an apology video, I made another video, and I didn't get into the argument, and they still use that against me. And I'm going, what do I have to do? Like, how far do you have to go to try to say to someone, I don't want to fight. I want to come together. I want you to look past me and this bald head, big nose, and a beard. I want you to look past that and say, what are the principles behind this? Because that's what I was talking about. I was talking about physiological principles, physics principles. If you had the options to use certain things, I would choose this over that because of physiology and physics. And then I was attacked on my character about what I was doing. Instead of really what my argument was, they went and looked at me. And the same thing I see is happening with people who agree on things. And that's sad to me, all right? So I look at the world and I go, well, what does this mean for the future? I don't know. I know that I'm going to try to do my part in these videos to try to pick these things apart, criticize them, right? But work on trying to come together. At the end of my videos, I hope I try to weave something in together that can be used to make it better for the future. Again, it's all my opinion. Who knows if I have any good ideas, but if we don't aim for that, if the aim is I want to dunk on you so that I can get views, we're screwed. We're done. We're cooked. I think we're a lot more cooked than it looks out there, and it looks bad. I think we're a lot more cooked than we are. Like I said, Tower of Babel, it's on steroids right now. How do we come up with solutions? Maybe we have to wait for AI to come up with all the solutions because we're not willing to do that because we're too proud. We're too stuck in our own ways of thinking that even though you're a good person, even though I agree with you on 99%, that 1%, I'm gonna make you hurt because of that. That's not good. So I say, if you are one of those people that sees this, can you put your ego aside and can you let the bigger picture come through your communication? Meaning, can you say, hey, although this person is attacking my character, I'm gonna stick with it. I'm not gonna shut off. I'm gonna actually continue to play full out and be honest instead of doing what you normally would do, which was I'm gonna play dumb, or I'm gonna say things because I don't like this person now because of that. Can you put your ego aside and say, what's the best thing down the line, as opposed to being right in the moment or protecting, like, you know, hey, I'm gonna do this thing to protect my ego, setting that aside and saying what's best for the whole, okay, for both of us versus just me. And it's a lot easier said than done. So if you are one of those people, let's work on those communication skills. What are some ways that we can do that? I don't know. Do we just wait for AI or do we get on top of it right away? Because I know that I've had arguments with people when I'm sitting there and I'm going, I'm trying to communicate that I agree with them and they're not able to agree. And some people have a contrary, personality and that's just what they do. But I think it's not a good sign that we're doing this all the time now, and it's not just for content. It's actually when two people come together to have a conversation and they can't communicate and then they end up arguing. So that's what I'm seeing. I see a lot of that content. I can't watch it. Like I said, I watch some of it and then I just click off of it. It gives me a headache. I'm like, man, this is sad. It breaks my heart because I understand where they're both coming from, but I see the lack of communication and then I see the comments and I'm like, I don't want to live in this negative world. I got enough negative going on in my own head. So I don't want that to be around me. So what can we do? Like I said, I can say we can work on our communication skills. We can wait for AI. What are some other ideas that we can work on to help build bridges versus burn the bridges and dunk on each other about things? So that was on my mind. It's getting a little bit exhausting. I don't know what to do about it other than stepping up to the plate. And if you have the ability to set your ego aside, so when you're in these when you're communicating with one another, that you're not just trying to force things down or play dumb because of the other person's attitude on things. It's going to be a lot tougher than it sounds, right? It's going to be very challenging, but I think it's possible. And how are we going to do that long term? So I know I'm kind of rambling here as I usually do, but I had to get out there because I'm frustrated with that, but I want to try to find a solution to that. And I want to put that energy out there versus the energy of, hey, screw it, I'm just going to make that type of content. No, it's not going to be me. I'm going to do my best to hold true to what I really believe in. That's it for today. Until next time, I'll